Guys, move to one side, please. One side, please.
The boxing world has been buzzing with reactions to the electrifying showdown between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Here are some of the most interesting responses.
It makes no difference to me what he does, what he thinks. I really could not care less. Because regardless, I'm going to come out there, a couple of hot skips and a big right hand to his temple. You can prepare for that.
Sparring is the next best thing to actually fighting. The stuff that we've been doing on the pads, on the bag, and what we've been talking about technically, we'll try all them things out in sparring, and that's what sparring really is.
It's really interesting to think, to be honest with you. I mean, Conor's going up for 2 weight divisions. He's not fought anyone like the people that Eubank Jr has fought, at his own weight, let alone 2 weights above. So it'll be very interesting. But Conor has a huge self-belief and drive, to be honest with you. A drive like his dad, the Benn family. I've never seen a family with more drive and determination. So I think everything's pointing at Chris Eubank Jr. But I think I might have a sneaky few quid on Conor, to be honest with you. His drive and his confidence, his self-belief is something that I've only ever seen in a handful of people, and he's going to need that, and I think that might be enough against Eubank.
Before the highly anticipated showdown, Steve Collins, the man who famously handed Chris Eubank Sr. his first professional defeat 30 years ago, offered his bold prediction. Speaking of TalkSport, the Celtic Warrior admitted he found it difficult to pick a clear winner. Collins confessed, "I don't know who's going to win this. I genuinely cannot pick a winner. I could pick reasons why either guy could win. I'm really looking forward to it because it's a good match. Both fighters are capable of beating each other." The legendary rivalry between the Eubank and Benn families was reignited, with many declaring the April clash one of the most significant moments in British boxing history. For Conor Benn, the challenge was steep. He had to step up to middleweight, having spent most of his career battling at welterweight. Meanwhile, the tension ahead of their grudge match was intense, reaching a boiling point when Chris Eubank Jr. smashed an egg over Benn's head during their announcement press conference. Addressing the incident, Eubank remained unapologetic, stating, "I don't do shenanigans. I do what I believe is right and what I want to do. I'm just being me." However, the final stare down on Tuesday went off without drama, with Eubank calmly observing Benn from a distance. Eubank emphasized that size wouldn't be the deciding factor, explaining, "This fight isn't about size or weight. It's about skill, dedication, and expertise, all areas where I excel. I'm a complete fighter. I've been doing this for so long, I've forgotten more than he knows. Experience, dedication, and willpower will decide this fight." Echoing the proud words of his father, Eubank promised to systematically break down Benn, saying, "The procedure will be parliamentary. Everything will go how I want it to go. I'll be like a matador, and Conor Benn will be the bull." For Benn, this fight was deeply personal, a continuation of the fierce rivalry between his father, Nigel Benn, and Chris Eubank Sr. Speaking candidly, Benn said, "It's always personal. Every opponent I fight is personal. People say it's just business, but if someone is trying to knock me out, it's never just business. It's personal." He added, "I'm extremely confident because I put the work in. It feels like a homecoming for me. This is a fight that never went away. It had to happen. Once I put this to bed, I'll drop back down to 147 pounds and continue my mission. I'm only up here at 160 pounds for 2 fights, then it's back down." Meanwhile, the stakes became even higher after the World Boxing Council announced that the winner of Eubank Jr. versus Benn would be back for a future shot at Canelo Alvarez. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman praised the bout, stating, The rivalry between the fathers has now become a rivalry between the sons. Heated press conferences, social media battles. When the bell rings, it's going to be something everyone will remember. He added, hopefully the fight lives up to expectations. Eubank Jr. has been previously linked as a potential Canelo opponent, particularly since he has fought at super middleweight in the past. Despite competing at 160 pounds for this bout, Eubank's experience at higher weights gave him an advantage. Benn, on the other hand, ranked third in the WBC's welterweight rankings, was viewed as more likely to pursue world honors back at 147 pounds. Suleiman confirmed that a title opportunity for the winner was realistic, saying, absolutely. Canelo is embarking on a new stage of his career. He will fight in Riyadh, then in Las Vegas. The winner this Saturday will become a major player in world boxing. Looking ahead, a bout against Canelo in 2026 seemed a more realistic target for Eubank. Benn, meanwhile, made it clear he planned to dominate the welterweight division, telling Sky Sports, I'll be going back down to 147 pounds to win a world title. While the build-up stirred excitement, the fight itself divided opinion among analysts. Chris Eubank Jr. brought greater experience to the ring, having fought genuine world champions like George Groves and Billy Joe Saunders, though he came up short in those big moments. Naturally bigger, Eubank had the advantage of size and experience. Benn, by contrast, was stepping up 2 full weight classes, although a 10-pound rehydration clause was put in place for the morning of the fight to somewhat level the playing field. Despite being the younger man, Benn had lost momentum since the cancellation of their first scheduled fight, which was derailed by a positive doping test. Since then, Benn had collected only 2 modest points victories in the United States. Before that setback, however, he had been riding a wave of success, scoring impressive knockouts over names like Chris Algieri and Samuel Vargas. His raw power and relentless aggression led some experts to believe he had the tools to pull off an upset. Former world champion Tony Bellew was among those who backed Benn. Speaking to First Round TV, Bellew predicted that Benn would secure an early stoppage. I think it's a fight of 2 halves, Bellew said. My heart always backs Conor. He's a good kid with a good heart. However, Bellew acknowledged that if the fight dragged on past 6 to 8 rounds, it could become a rough night for Benn, as weight and size advantages would begin to favor Eubank. Bellew also didn't hold back in his assessment of Eubank Jr.'s skills, describing him as a terrible boxer, but a better fighter than a boxer. Ultimately, Bellew stood firm in his belief that Benn could finish things early, saying, I'm backing Conor Benn in the first 5 rounds. I think he'll catch him, hurt him, and overwhelm him. As the fight approached, the anticipation among fans and experts alike continued to grow. With pride, legacy, and major career opportunities on the line, both men entered the ring knowing that this battle was about much more than titles. It was about writing their own chapter in one of boxing's most storied rivalries.
Fight of 2 halves.
Yeah.
My heart always says Conor. I love the kid. He's a good kid with a good heart. But if this fight goes past 6 rounds, it's a hard night to work.
It seems that's the general consensus, I think.
I think that 6-round mark is every. You know what? I should say 8 rounds because Conor's extremely fit.
Oh, proper.
He's unbelievable, so I should go 8 rounds. It's when it gets that stage that's where weight becomes a factor and size becomes a factor. I think that's when it shows on him. But then I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. is a very good boxer. I think he's a terrible boxer. I think he's a better fighter than he is boxer. I just think he can be copped. If I'm a betting man, I'm saying Conor Benn in the first.
Nobody understands what it takes to face Chris Eubank Jr. better than Billy Joe Saunders. The former 2-weight world champion has shared the ring with boxing greats like Canelo Alvarez and Andy Lee, and was part of a major showdown against Eubank Jr. back in 2014. Saunders built a commanding early lead in that bout, although Eubank finished much stronger, nearly closing the gap before Saunders ultimately secured a split decision victory. Despite the fight taking place over a decade ago, the rivalry between Saunders and Eubank Jr. has remained heated. The two have continued to exchange verbal jabs over the years and are often linked to a potential rematch. Ahead of Eubank Jr.'s fight with Conor Benn, Saunders shared his thoughts on how he saw the matchup unfolding. Speaking with Box Nation, Saunders remarked, "As of late, he's looked a little bit old, should we say. And don't forget, Eubank's not the kind of boxer who gets behind his jab, gets a nice lead, and uses his footwork." He continued, "He's been in some scraps, good scraps, but often not against the best opponents. They've still given him some good work. I just think if Conor catches him clean and can follow up with one of those good shots."
A lot of the way through, it was humorous in places, quite deep in other places as well, when Eubank was talking about his late brother and Raheem, the young son that he left behind. I have to say, very strong start by our ring comrade Rick Reno. He kind of set a hot pace there, didn't he? Came out of the blocks absolutely knees pumping there, Reno. He really did, and everybody else had to follow him.
I was thinking, this is a haggler. This can't go past 3 rounds.
But it was good, Sonny, wasn't it? You know, there was plenty in there. Because with boxing's a really serious sport. We know what can happen in there. It's too serious to be too serious all the time, and that was an enjoyable press conference.
100%, and it's crazy to me that we're talking about Reno. Someone that started a boxing website has now got a job somewhere else and is coming on giving the biggest promos in the world stick. It blows my mind. And whoever did pay him and encourage him to say that, there's probably 10,000 people in boxing that'll do a 10,000 times job.
Like the one Liam Smith landed. I think Conor Benn knocked him out. Meanwhile, the tumultuous build-up to the fight, including the infamous scene where Eubank Jr. smashed an egg over Benn's head, saw figures like Eddie Hearn and Nigel Benn also drawn into the drama. Emotions were high, and the entire boxing community eagerly anticipated the event, recognizing how much pride and legacy were at stake. Joe Calzaghe, who famously fought Chris Eubank Sr. in 1997, also weighed in. The undefeated Welshman, who enjoyed a stellar career at the top level, gave a cautious prediction, stating, "Yeah, I think it's a tough one to call. Talent-wise, they're on the same sort of level, but normally size wins fights. So, I sort of edge with Eubank as he's the bigger guy naturally." Carl Froch, another former world champion, shared his analysis ahead of the bout, although he admitted that picking a winner wasn't easy. In a video posted to his official YouTube channel, Froch detailed how he evaluated the contest by considering variables like achievements, size, strength, and experience at the world level. Froch pointed out that Chris Eubank Jr. had fought the likes of George Groves and Billy Joe Saunders, beaten Arthur Abraham, and even James DeGale, a former world champion, solidifying his credentials at a higher weight class on the global stage. In contrast, Froch argued that Conor Benn had yet to achieve anything truly significant, though he did acknowledge Benn's knockout victory over Chris Algieri, saying Benn looked good but emphasized that Algieri was well past his prime. Froch concluded by saying, "If I had to pick an immediate favorite in the fight, it would be Chris Eubank Jr."
Who's done what, and who's the bigger, stronger man, and who's got the experience at world level? You're gonna have to say Chris Eubank Jr. He's fought Groves, he's fought Billy Joe Saunders, he's been in there and beat Arthur Abraham, James DeGale, former IBF super middleweight world champion. He beat him. So he's performed at a better level and proven that at a higher weight, he kind of belongs around the world, sort of the world level status, where Conor Benn hasn't done anything. He's done nothing. Make no mistake, yes, he banged out Chris Algieri, who was a former champ, and he looked good doing it. But it was a way past his best, Chris Algieri. I was working the commentary team for him alongside Roy Jones Jr. when Billy Joe Saunders fought Canelo Alvarez, and Chris was saying to me, "I'm not in the gym, I'm not training, I'm not interested in boxing anymore, I'm going to concentrate on my punditry." About 6 months later, I've seen him getting knocked out by Conor Benn. I thought, what is going on? Why do these fighters do it? Obviously, some of them need the bun.
And that's all for today. Stay tuned for more of the latest updates from your favorite world of boxing.